It's David at Bowing Beyond, and we're reading today again, still from. Are we all plugged in?
Yeah.
We are. Yeah, I didn't think we were. Could he see that one of our mics wasn't plugged in? So anyway, we're reading from Letting Go, Dr. David Hawkins. I love this book. It's so it's informative. I mean, not that that. Well, yeah, knowledge is power, you guys. That's the bottom line, and knowledge is freedom, and I just love this book, and it helps us to. In the beginning, we're dealing with the lower emotions on his scale. It kind of goes from apathy at the very bottom, all the way up to enlightenment and past unconditional love, and so it's an amazing book. It really is. If you really, if you're looking to be happy, joyous, and free this time through on this planet. This is like a text that can help us with all of that. And I'm in chapter 6, and it's a chapter where he talks a lot about fear and how to deal with fear. And we read yesterday about that. It was awesome, and about love and how we can literally love trumps fear. And so now we're on page 96, Owning the Shadow. And hang in to the end. I've got kind of a treat for you. I want to read a little affirmation that I read on a daily basis to you today. And but let's do this. We've got about 10 pages is all. Owning the Shadow, and we're going to read up on fear. Owning the Shadow. One of the blocks to emotional development is the fear of what lies buried in our unconscious. Really, one of the blocks. So we have actually personally had blocks to emotional development. Imagine. Carl Jung called this area, which we are unwilling to look at and to own, the shadow. He said that the self cannot become healed and whole unless we look at and acknowledge the shadow. This means that buried within us all, in what Jung called the collective unconscious, is everything that we most dislike admitting about ourselves. Okay. The average human, he said, would much rather project his shadow onto the world and condemn it and see it as evil, thinking that his problem is to battle with evil in the world. In actuality, the problem is merely to acknowledge the presence of such thoughts and impulses in ourselves. By acknowledging them, we become quiet. They become quiet. Really. Once they are quiet, they are no longer unconsciously run us. In looking at our fears, of the unknown, which are really fears of what is in the depths of the unconscious, it is useful to have a sense of humor. Once looking at and acknowledged, the shadow no longer has any power. In fact, it is only our fear of these thoughts and impulses that give them any power. Once we become acquainted with our shadow, we no longer have to protect our fears or project our fears upon the world, and they begin to evaporate rapidly. What makes the endless television programs, which are concerned with mayhem in its various forms, so attractive? Because what is being acted out on the screen, where it is safe, are all the forbidden unconscious fantasies in our own psyche. Once we are willing to look at the same movies on the TV screen, once we're willing to look at our same movies on the TV screen of our own minds and see whence they really originate, the attraction of these such entertainment disappears. People who have acknowledged the content of their own shadow have no interest in crime, violence, and fearful disasters. One of the blocks to become acquainted with the fears of one's own mind is the fear of the opinions of others. The wanting of their approval goes on inside of our minds in a constant fantasy. We identify with the opinion of others, including authority figures. We identify with the opinions of others, including authority figures, and coalesce these in such a way that we hear it in our own opinion of ourselves. We hear it as our own opinion of ourselves, really. And looking at our fears, then it is well to remember that Carl Jung, of the forbidden inside the shadow as part of the collective unconscious. The term collective unconscious means that everybody has these thoughts and fantasies. There's nothing unique about any of us when it comes to the way we symbolize our emotions. Everybody secretly harbors the fear that they are dumb, ugly, unlovable, and a failure. Everybody. Wow. Who would have thought that? The unconscious mind is not polite. It thinks in gross concepts. When it thinks of the phrase murder the bum, when it thinks of the phrase murder the bum, the unconscious literally means that. Look deep within yourself the next time somebody cuts you off in traffic and picture what you would really do to that person if you were strictly honest with yourself. It did not censor the image coming to mind. You'd like to run them off the road, wouldn't you? Pulverize them, push them off the cliff. Isn't that right? That's the way the unconscious thinks. A little dangerous, eh? The reason that a sense of humor is useful is because these images are comical once we look at them. There's nothing awful about it. It's just the way the unconscious handles images. It doesn't mean that we are a rotten person or that we are potentially a criminal. It just means that we have gotten honest and faced how the human animal mind operates in this dimension. There's no point in getting melodramatic, self-critical, or tragic about it. The unconscious is crude and uncivilized. While our intellect went to prep school, the unconscious remained in the jungle, where it is still swinging in the trees. Looking at the shadow side is not a time to get prissy or squeamish. It's not a time to take it literally either, because the symbols of the unconscious are just that. They are symbols, and they are primitive in nature. If worked with consciously, they can empower us rather than inhibit us. It takes a lot of energy to keep the shadow buried and to suppress our multitude of fears. The result is energy depletion. On the emotional level, it is expressed in as the inhibition of the capacity to love. Really, emotional level, it is expressed as the inhibition of the capacity to love. In the world of consciousness, like goes to like, so that fear attracts fear, just as its corollary is true, and love attracts love. The more fear we hold, the more fearful situations we attract to our life. Each fear requires additional energy to create a protective device, until finally all our energy is drained into our extensive defensive measures. The willingness to look at a fear and work with it until we are free of it brings about immediate rewards. Nice. Each of us has within us a certain reservoir of suppressed and repressed fear. This quantity of fear is muscular of the face, so as to affect our physical appearance, our physical strength, and the condition of health in all of the organs of the body. Sustained and chronic fear gradually suppresses the just hang on a second. Hello? Hey buddy. I'm just reading. I'll be finished in a couple minutes. You know what to do. Get started on a few things. Okay? Yeah. Excuse me, you guys. We are running a business here. People are coming and going. Sustained and chronic fear gradually suppresses the body's immune system. With kinesiological testing, we can instantly demonstrate that a fearful thought causes a major reduction in muscle power and deranges the energy flow down the body's energy meridians to the body's vital organs. Really. Although we know that it is totally damaging to our relationships, health, and happiness, we still hang on to fear. Why is that? Isn't that crazy? Although we know it is totally damaging to our relationships, health, and happiness, we still hang on to fear. Why is that? We have the unconscious fantasy that fear is keeping us alive. This is because fear is associated with our whole set of survival mechanisms. We have the idea that if we were to let go of fear, our main defense mechanism, we would become vulnerable in some way. In reality, the truth is that it's just the opposite. Fear is what binds us to the real dangers of life. In fact, fear itself is the greatest danger that the human body faces. It is fear and guilt that bring about disease and failure in every area of our lives. You still have a customer in the back? Just say yes. Yeah. Do you need me?
No, the internet went down. I just wanted to make sure that we're not losing connection.
How come the internet went down?
Because it wasn't working, so she reset it. But it's working on your phone, so you're good.
Okay. All right. Great. We could take the same protective actions out of protective actions out of love rather than fear. Can we not care for our bodies? Can we not care for our bodies because we appreciate and value them rather than out of fear and disease and dying? Can we not be of service to others in our life out of love rather than out of fear of losing them? Can we not be polite and courteous to strangers because we care for our fellow human beings rather than because we fear losing their good opinion of us? Can we not do a good job because we care about the quality of the performance and we care about our fellow workers? Can we not perform our job well because we care about the recipients of our services rather than just the fear of losing our jobs or pursuing our own ambitions? Can we not accomplish more by cooperation rather than by fearful competitiveness? Can we not drive carefully because we have a high regard for others and care for our welfare and those who love us rather than because of fear of an accident? On a spiritual level, isn't it more effective if, out of compassion and identification with our fellows and human beings, we care for them rather than trying to love them out of fear of God's punishment if we don't? Fear, man. Wow. So listen, I'm not going to read much more of this today. I just have one more thing I want to share with you, and I think we'll finish this chapter on fear tomorrow. I have another book, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it. This has been a book that I've loved all my life, a long, long time. I'm just going to share just a little bit about it. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I have an affirmation that I read often. And we'll get back to Hawkins tomorrow. But I'm going to read this affirmation, and then that's going to be it for today. Napoleon Hill has, in his book, he's got a formula called the self-confidence formula. And I've read this 1,000 times, maybe 5,000 times. I don't know, probably not, but I've read it 1,000 for sure. First, I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here and now promise to render such action. Second, I realize that the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I'll concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating in my life a clear mental picture of that person. Third, I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object back of it. Therefore, I'll devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. Fourth, I have clearly written down a description of my definite chief aim in life, and I will never stop trying until I shall have developed sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. Fifth, I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting myself the forces I wish to use in the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve them, and my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity, because I know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring me success. I cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. So that's out of the book Think and Grow Rich, and I just wanted to share that with you. It just came up today to share it with you, and I think it's on page 72, I think. So yeah, self-confidence formula. It's I think it was there. Maybe not. I'll find it for you. I'll tell you where it was tomorrow. But it's in this book, Think and Grow Rich. It's an amazing book. It's an old classic. It really is. It's kind of the cornerstone of a lot of what's happened in the world. You know, in the changes that have happened around positive thought, and given us the ability to create amazing things. And he has a whole story. Maybe I'll read this to you one day. We'll see. Anyway, there's lots of great stuff in this one. There it is, self-confidence formula. It actually was on page 36. And in Think and Grow Rich. Okay, love you guys. I know I was a little short on this reading today, and I just feel a little distracted. We have customers in the store. I'm going to let you go. Love you so much. Cheers.